Yeah, so we're gonna pick up here in this kind of checkerboarded marble room, where again you kind of figured out that there is some sort of force that kind of prevents you guys from entering into that pit below. You had gone to throw like a rope down to start to climb down in preparation. Henry was getting ready to shoot the golem. Uh, I feel like one of you had the god inside of you that probably knew that you have to assault this golem with magical weapons. Um, I don't remember who in specific it is. It doesn't really matter, but you kind of got that clue from the god inside of you. I feel like it was Zeros. So you guys were like in preparation for this, and then you basically go to throw this rope down and find out there's a field over the top of that little that pit into it. Immediately you kind of like go a little bit more casual, investigating the room a little bit more, find the statues are all on this plinth. The bottom one seems to be the same like emblem on it, that like eight-pointed star, but when you look at the star, that one doesn't seem to have anything remarkable about it. I think maybe I said that it was kind of clean, perhaps for like the rest of the room having bits of the mycelial growth where there's like pinks and purples around some of that like marble checkerboarding. That little plinth was a little bit cleaner than perhaps the should be. Um, Eventually investigating, I think Einri went straight to the wizard and saw that its plinth could turn counterclockwise or clockwise. And that's where the initial thought was just to turn it this way, kind of arbitrarily, and it wouldn't move. And it wasn't until when Henry went to spin it, that's where, yeah, you guys all kind of took the dodge action in kind of a moment of we don't know what's going to happen here, but we all kind of assume something is about to happen here. Uh, and that's where we're going to pick up. It's that moment where Henry moves the wizard, and he kind of moves like 15 degrees clockwise before it kind of goes into form. And the bottom of these eight-pointed stars, that little icon starts to grow like this mud forms up out of it. And as it gets like 3, 4, 5, 8 feet tall, and it's just spilling over the platform, uh, one of those things. It's a kind of toss up whether it pushes uh Kyranos to the side or whether its body flows to the left. The mechanics of the game, those two bodies don't interact with each other as it teleports up top here, and we're going into combat as the wizard starts to click, 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 and he goes back into place once again, pointing across this gap at the armored figure. And I'll throw that up so we have initiative. If you guys can roll initiative with Kyranos and Enray. Reaching.
Sorry, lagged the first time.
Kyranos said, I'll take the opposite. So, Enray, you are the one moving the wizard, somewhat ready for something to happen. You see as this mud and clay starts to flow up through that icon to the south of you, and all of a sudden it's like tumbling over itself like a mud flow, like falling down the side of a cliff, and these like arms of mud are starting to pour out towards you. What would you like to do?
Yeah, I would like to bonus action disengage. My Yeah, cutting action disengage.
Oh, but it looks so friendly. Where would you like to move to? Gotcha.
And from there I'm just gonna take two shots at it. Regular shots.
I don't remember. Do you actually have a magical bow?
It is a longbow +1.
Gotcha.
Wait, sharpshooter. That's not a bonus action, right?
Nope, sharpshooter is just a different kind of shot that you can
Yeah.
take.
Some reason I remembered it as a bonus action. But yeah, then I'm gonna take 2 sharpshooter shots. Hopefully get some damage in.
First arrow is going to be a solid shot that just like sinks into this creature. Um, Not sure how you really see a whole lot of damage happening inside of a mud-like creature, but the second one just kind of like hits off of a little bit of rock on the side of it and like plinks to the side and seems to be deflected by this thing's rock-like carapace. But it will take 29 damage as you get that first shot inside of its fleshy mud. Any other movement? Or would you like to? Do you have an action? You should have action surge if you wanted to.
Yeah, I'll action surge. Do 2 more sharpshooters.
And they're going to do almost the exact opposite this time. That third shot is going to plink off of one of the other more like rocky parts of its carapace, but the last shot that you put out there is going to sink into its flesh and actually like pierce through the mud, dealing another 18.
Yeah, then that's it for Ernie. Then Quinn. Let's see. How is it? I can stand like in the same area as Kyrnos and attack. I just can't end my turn there. Is that correct?
With Quinn, well, for one, you can stand on top of the pit because you can't fall into the pit.
All right.
If you
I
don't
forgot about
trust the
that.
pit, yeah, you can move up to where Kyrinos is. You just can't stop there.
Yeah, no, for some reason I forgot about the pit. So yeah, she's just gonna stand on top of that field. Hopefully it's still there. She's gonna attack.
Yeah, actually, my apologies here. I'm going to have this do a legendary action first. And it's going to swing at Kyrinos at the end of Enri's turn. So this will be a disadvantage as you're dodging. Shouldn't matter though. 22 to hit you.
Yeah, that'll still hit for sure.
And it's going to do 14 bludgeoning damage to you. Can you make a Constitution saving throw for me, please?
All right.
But otherwise, you're good. Your hit point maximum is going to be reduced by that. 14. Yeah, 14. My bad, Chris. You're otherwise good with Quinn there.
Yeah, then she's gonna start attacking. Let's see. And she is also gonna action surge and get 2 more.
Gotcha. Both of those are solid hits cutting into it. That's fucking crazy. 2 nat 20s are solid strikes. Or what is that total of 19? 35, 45, 53, 77. Did I do that math right?
Not sure if it's quite that much. Let me see. Let's see. 19, 35, 43, 57, 67, I think, is what I get.
67 word.
Yeah, I also get 67.
Yeah, that is pretty much instantly going to start like chopping off massive like chunks of this thing's clay as it's at the start of its turn. Do you have anything else you would like to do with her? Any more movement or
No, she's gonna stay there.
it is going to use another legendary action to swing out at Quinn and try to smash into you. A 20 should hit. And it's going to do 12 damage to you. And I need a constitution saving throw from Quinn. That is the con that I think you needed. Yep, con 15, so you are good. Oh, I totally thought it went next. It's going to go to Kyranos.
All right. Kyranos is going to kind of, as this thing like smashes into him, he almost kind of like gives it like just like a bloody smile as like the spirit of Kubazan is like, all right, we're the enemy. And he is going to kind of retaliate, lashing out with his with the bronze staff two-handed. I'm going to go ahead and use my inspiration on this one. And planning to use 3 charges of the staff if it hits.
Did you roll after your long rest for how many charges you regained?
Yeah, basically, it's been it's back essentially back up to 10 charges.
Gotcha.
So that would
Ouch.
be it would be a 17 to hit. So
17 hits. Yeah, you need a not one to hit this thing. But you have +8 from your strength modifier, right?
+6 from strength, and then yeah, the proficiency bonus is +4. Oh, and then it's a +3 quarterstaff. Yeah, those plus their that makes it +13. Yeah.
So, do you want to bump any of those force points into it as you smack into this creature?
Yeah. Sorry. So 3 charges. I think that's right. 1d8 +9, and then +3d6.
29 total?
Yeah. And he is similarly kind of not backing down, so he's staying right in this thing's face as he kind of swings away. Zeros is going to be moving and kind of along the edge here, and he is firing just a couple of Eldritch Blasts.
Each of those are going to hit, and the second one is going to take it into mortally wounded. End of his turn. Does Zeros have anything else that he's doing?
Nope, that's all.
End of his turn, he's gonna swing at Quinn again. 17 hit you, Quinn? I don't think so.
No, that just misses.
Alrighty. And then it is going to strike out at, let's see, we're going to do two attacks on Kyranos and a third attack on Quinn. And you're going to see as it kind of like starts this turn, like it's already starting to like fall apart. Like the mud and the clay are starting to almost like fall apart as like water and sand, and it's going to kind of like in a few like cracking motions of its body, like you see as like these motions like are kind of like slow and staggered to like a moment of it just like flexes in like a crack of its spinal cord almost kind of thing, and you just see as it like just rushes, and these three punches that come out of it are instantaneously quick. Like this thing is moving at twice the speed it was moving when it swung at you the first times that it did. It has sped itself up with, it is essentially hasted right now. And it's going to go first two on Kyrnos. Both of those should hit, and then the third on Quinn. That one should hit with a 21.
Yeah, that one hits.
So Kyranos, yours is going to be for 16 and then 10, and I need a con save on each of those. And then Quinn, 19 and a con save. DC 15. So after this save, Kyranos, you can have inspiration again. As Henry, I believe you still have inspiration.
Yeah, I still do.
And I believe I had made the transmuter stone advantage on con saving throws, so I think I should pass
Oh,
both.
did you pass the first one? I didn't even
No,
think
it
about
was a
that.
no, it was a 7 and a 9. I would have failed either way.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, so you pass both of those. It's just straight damage. Quinn, you're going to lose 19 from your max hit points. In that case, you don't actually have to deal damage to yourself. No, I guess you have to because you've already taken damage. You essentially should end up with the same amount of hit points missing, but this time you lose 19 and you also lose 19 from your max. Otherwise, it is going to go to Henry. I don't see any reason why this thing should be able to survive through one of you, let alone through the entire group again here. So, as far as I'm concerned, you guys can describe to me how the four of you essentially get this kill, but effectively, this creature cannot stand up to you. Are you all
I
kind of ganging up on it still? Kind of just a couple of plinks from the arrows, couple of eldritch blasts, and then the two of you still just beating it into the fucking dirt?
Yeah, I feel like maybe one of us, like maybe Kirno, swings low and kind of knocks out like a leg, so it's dropping just as like Quinn is coming down with her blade, essentially like chop off maybe one of its other limbs, and then Ernie's arrows and Zeros's eldritch blast just kind of blow it apart as it's like struggling to get back to its feet, kind of thing.
Or the thing never had a chance. So you all can see. I forgot you've got the corpse of the tomb guardian there too.
Oh yeah, because
Uh,
we thought maybe it was. I think Kiranos thought maybe it was like a weight mechanism, so he dragged they dragged the body on top of it.
So you guys can now see inside of that area. There is indeed a chest at the base of that kind of pit. You have somewhat of an idea of what the wizard does. That might give you a clue as to what the knight might do. But what kind of thoughts do you all have as you essentially take out this threat that was looming at the base of that pit?
So Kiranos just wants to kind of dig through whatever remains of the skull just to make sure, just to see if there's anything within. Um, of any interest.
What do you mean by of any interest? Like, are you trying to think of something that is like good for a crafting of
Like almost
sorts,
maybe,
or
yeah, like he's not really sure how exactly probably how golems works. Almost like, almost thinking maybe there's some like kind of core thing like within it that essentially like animates it, kind of thing, other than just magic. So essentially just kind of like poking around for that. But um
has Kyranos asked Enri to look at the manual of golems?
he I forgot that Ernie had that, but assuming Kyranos knows that, he would probably indeed ask him to maybe take a look and
I'd
let him
say
know.
on some level, without having looked at it, you might not necessarily know. But I mean, for what it's worth, you could take like some of the actual clay inside of like an old healing potion vial. But in particular, unless you're looking for something, there's no reason for it to look any different. Um, if I recall vaguely, most golems are kind of sympathetic magic, where they tend to have things from other things to incorporate what they do. So there's often things that like kind of relate. If it is, um, I don't know, just kind of one of those things like voodoo dolls are the quintessential sympathetic magic. You make it to represent somebody, and that is the connection to them to do things to somebody. Golems, if I recall, like tend to be kind of one of those things that are vaguely sympathetic. So there's theoretically like hair from somebody inside of this creature. There's theoretically like not even necessarily body parts. So often it can be things that are mundane, like fingernails, to kind of make it more humanoid. But I don't think in general, and especially without having studied the manual of golems, that there's necessarily anything for you to know yet about it. And if it's not for like a crafting purpose, I don't see a reason to like put it to an arcana roll. So I'm tempted to just say you can take some of the clay. If you ever think of something that you want to do with it, great. I don't know exactly what you want from it, but I think that's kind of the answer I can give you right now.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking of the old. I think it was an old X Files episode where essentially like like people feed in like slips of paper into the golem because of like for stuff they want it to do, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it was kind of
Okay, I feel like that kind of sits into the sympathetic magic that maybe like you create the golem and then you can add to it as you're giving it commands. Um, I've never necessarily come across that one in particular, but I feel like in kind of a more magical setting, that's one of those things that might get kind of um, superfluous comes to mind, but that's the wrong word, but like superseded by the idea that you can actually magically command something to do something. Um, but maybe that is indeed where like kind of like the fingernail thing comes in, is it's like go after this person and you put in some fingernails from the person.
right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, unless there's anything that strikes him as special about the clay, I'm not sure he'd even kind of take any of it. He'd just be kind of um,
Honestly, I don't see a reason to as well. As far as I understand, in the creation of a golem, one of the requirements is essentially what is it? Simulacrum, basically, is what I know. One of the requirements is like that 50 pounds of clay or something, or like your body weight in clay.
yeah. So I think he'd just kind of maybe like poke around with a staff, kind of see there's nothing really much of any interest, and so how do you think we get down, Ernie? Um, 'Cause the force field is still he'd probably I guess maybe try with the staff just to kind of test make sure that that field is still there.
It is indeed.
Well, when we turned the wizard statue, it seemed to bring something up. If we turn the other statue, maybe we bring something down. Could try that.
That seems like it'd work. Well, we'll need at least one person up here to be able to bring us back up.
And Erna will like, I can stay behind and deal with the statues.
All right. Well, if the chest is locked, I might be able to. I've got some magic that might help get it open, so I'll go down. And Kiranos is
Like
going.
push the other bodies off of the platform, so it's like just you and no corpses.
Yeah, he would kind of try and move the others, maybe like kind of sweep away the remnants of the golem and stand up on top of the plinth and kind of give a nod to Ernie that he's ready.
Yeah, and then Erna will try turning the statue clockwise.
I don't remember in which direction in particular. I think this one turns right as well, clockwise. But regardless, it's kind of the same situation where this one only really turns one direction, as the other direction it is capable of turning is simply to return. So when you go to turn it clockwise, turn it right, you hear kind of a click. Kyrinos is going to disappear from that platform and is going to appear at the base of this pit. And then you'll hear click, 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 as the knight slowly like turns back to where his palm is facing towards, well, the back of his hand is facing towards the wizard across the pit. For you at the base of the pit, Kyrinos, you basically stand next to a large stone chest. Couple 100 pounds, probably just looking at it as to what size, like how heavy it might be. And what is it? I think it's got like silver kind of like bracing that is almost like inlaid into the actual stonework. Oh, my bad. I totally skipped over one thing that you most certainly would have seen looking through the golem's body. It had a silver key on its necklace. It had a silver key in the necklace. And we'll say that you found that inside of its corpse.
Okay. Yeah. So he will be. Yeah, he would definitely have taken that.
Yeah, getting down there, you basically see like silver key. This chest has like a silver inlay, and the actual lock mechanism is like the connection of that silver back at like a silver lock piece.
Yeah. So I think Kiranos is going to. Yeah, he'll take the key and kind of like give a maybe like hold it up like with like a nod up towards Ernie and the others, and then go to turn it in the lock and try to open the chest.
You open the chest, you are going to see that the chest is lined with like a red silk, and inside sits one crystal eyeball that is kind of a pale green. My bad, two crystal eyeballs. One eyeball is a pale green, and the other one is pink. Other than that, the chest is empty.
Yeah, so Kyranos will go to pluck those out of the chest. Um, and then, well, I guess after he does that, he's just going to, just to be thorough, he would kind of try and feel around, try to see if there's any sort of like false bottom or hidden compartment within the stone chest before he.
Roll an investigation for me. Um, roll a D4. And then each of you can roll a D100. I probably could have said if you guys want to, those are good rolls. Please don't get me wrong. Without looking at my actual like list, if you guys wanted to, I think you could roll a D130. And what level are you guys right now? 100 or 11? Level 11?
Yeah. 11.
Yep, 11.
Yeah, so if you guys wanted to turn in that 83 or the 90, you can roll a D121. If you want to
Uh,
stick with those rolls, you can stick with those rolls.
yeah, I'll keep mine.
And what yours was
Oh,
the 83?
Mine was 83. Yeah.
I'll think I'll try rolling the D130. It's fun.
My bad. D121.
Oh, D121. Yeah. Let's see. It's slash. It's R slash, right? Uh,
Slash R space 1D121. All right, I feel like one of these is from the ledger. Um, you are going to find 23. Uh, roll a, I think a D4 for medium armor. Chris, my bad. A D5. Psych. You're going to find armor as well as a axe that sit at the base of this. Um, the armor is a scale. Roll a D100 for me, Chris. Gotcha. Yeah, so the armor is like a golden scale that has like gold and kind of like silvery untarnished like scales to it. Like it's almost like every gold one is inlaid with like a silver one um or like with a silver like outline, and then the opposite one is silver with like an inlaid gold outline. Um and that is a scale mail. And then in the kind of same place, like in this like little secret compartment beneath, you also find a battle axe that is pretty similarly kind of cast, like where it is vastly golden, but like the edge of the blade, it was silvered. It has like a piercing top that is kind of a pretty similar, like kind of silvered, like spike to the top, and then it has like a hammer side like opposite the actual axe. So it's kind of like slashing, piercing, and bludgeoning all in a single weapon. But those two items are in the base of this.
Yeah, so Kyranos is going to kind of pull those out as well, and then look up towards the others. Maybe give like a thumbs up to Ernie, and then maybe like a hand motion to signal. Um, okay, I'm ready to come up again.
and with that signal, Ernie will turn the wizard statue clockwise.
And that will teleport him up to the top.
And so Zeros will show off his finds from the chest. He'll kind of like he'll admire the axe for a bit and kind of just wish I knew to actually use something like this. But Quinn, Ernie, anything you'd be able to use, but put to better use.
And I will pipe up. Just no, I think I prefer sticking to my bow, and Quinn will look at it and just, yeah, I could use that. Uh, Still like my sword though. I should like at that the name that escapes me, the weird name, Magol Ibao, whatever it was, but like the Zweihander version of it.
Magoli Bolnost.
Yeah, that.
I remember at the time I looked it up and it was meant to mean something. I never actually wrote down what it was translated. So at this point, I don't remember what language translator I was using, nor what I translated to turn it into that name.
Yeah, and then similarly, this scale mail is quite looks quite appealing, but I also think that's not something that Kyranos or Zeros would be able to skillfully use. So he would. He's probably thinking Ernie probably similarly wouldn't be too interested in that, but he'll kind of look to Quinn, see if it's something she. I forget. Sorry, what armor she's wearing. She's wearing like heavy plate armor, though, right?
No, the Quinn we made, like she's Dex fighter, so she's in leather.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so he would. I mean, he would kind of like hold it out. Anything you'd be interested in?
Can Zeros wear medium armor?
No, it's only I think certain warlocks that certainly certain subclasses that get medium armor proficiency. He's only got light armor as well. I think it's like the text blade or like the more melee oriented ones.
Yeah, I think it's Hexblade that gets the medium armor.
Shows how much I pay attention to warlocks. I thought warlocks got medium armor.
I actually did too at first, and then I looked at the sheet and was like, oh, just light armor. But I think that sounds right though. I mean, I guess I mean, if he goes up to level 8, I could give him the feat that lets him wear medium armor, but maybe there's just like a medium armor proficiency feat or something like that. But I mean, in any case, if we get out of here, I'm sure we can. Sure, they're quite valuable, so we definitely want to hold on to them. Um, but not doesn't seem like anyone's going to be able to use them for now.
So is anybody using either of those two items, or are you basically just collecting each for themselves? Like for their value?
Uh, yeah, but I guess so. Like when if we next time we rest, he'll probably try and spend some time trying to like get an idea of what they do, just in case maybe there's something about them that would let one of them use them. But in the absence of that, given Kyranos is not, and Kyranos and Zeros wouldn't be proficient with either the axe or the armor. They probably you would, unless Quinn or Ernie wants one or the other, just kind of be stowing them for now.
Yeah, now Quinn might be looking like at them purely just because they look nice, but otherwise they don't really have a need for it. They probably prefer sticking with what they got.
Because I think with armor, right? If you're not proficient, then you can't cast spells while you're wearing armor that you're not proficient with.
Correct.
And I guess given his newfound, I mean, Kyrnos might put the axe at his maybe like on his belt.
So you got time to think about these things. When you do go to rest, what I will tell you is I usually have it that you attune to an item to identify it. Not just that you can spend an hour to figure it out, but that you spend the time attuning to it. So the real question I would say is, do you have an item that you would be willing to unattune to identify it? Otherwise, you could throw it on one of the other characters to have them. But that's kind of one of the reasons why I constantly try to encourage the actual use of identify, in my opinion, by making it clear, like it's, I don't know, kind of a higher effect, to be able to use spell work to figure out what something does versus actually like kind of becoming one with the weapon to figure out what it does.
Gotcha. Well, Kyrnos actually has an open spell slot because the amulet of health, I think, was the his third attunement. He no longer has because that was, I think, linked with Papazodal. So he could next time we rest, basically attune to the axe, and then assuming it's not cursed.
Kubazan doesn't have you attuned to something?
Um, so I've got the right now. I've got the braces of archery, and I think those were his, right?
Yeah, are those not attunement?
Yep.
Those should be attunement.
Yeah, so I've got that and the bronze staff of striking attuned. I think those are the only two attuned items he's got currently.
Okay, so like your glasses are not attunement, things like any of your other magical items. Yeah, so
Yeah, so no, the
that's really
periaptid
what it
health
was.
and the eyes of minute seeing are
The
the
periaptid
broke.
health is an attunement?
No, that's the one, just the one that
Yeah,
gives
that's
you.
crazy. Oh,
Well,
that's
that's
what
just
it
the one
is.
that gives
That
you
one's
immunity
super
to
minor. Yeah.
disease. Yeah, the other one, the amulet of health that gives the con bonus. That one is attunement. That's the one he's no longer wearing because it's. I don't think essentially that was linked
You
to
can't
Papazoda.
Yeah, you can't stay attuned to the item like for the god once another god. Like that's part of essentially you don't have a choice on that. Like you're attuned to the bracers because Kubazan kicked out Papa Zodal and you lost the amulet.
Right, right. Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, you guys can consider that. You can definitely consider essentially like figuring out one of those items next time. But you guys have this moment here. Do you have any thoughts moving forward? What you would like to do? Do you want to try to rest in this room and identify it? Um, you didn't necessarily pick it up in the recap, but this was also the place where, like, part of why you guys ambushed that tomb guardian was you recognized this was the hall that it was kind of pacing back and forth along, like I can't think of the word, but it was on guard duty basically when you looked through that peering pool.
Right, right. Yeah, so I guess probably before he would suggest a rest, Kyrnos would want to maybe kind of explore down the hallway that it had come out of, and I think I feel like last session maybe you mentioned that if we there might have been something to find down that way, but I don't remember if anyone actually went there during the session. But Kiranos would suggest maybe we just kind of take a look, make sure there's not anything down there. If we do decide we want to rest up here, to just make sure there's no more enemies. He thinks it was just the one.
Like down that hall.
Yeah.
So one thing is it would be creepy because you definitely have like the eyes of like these mycelial masses like watching you all as you go down this corridor. But when you get to the end of the corridor, you will see along that corner that there's like a steel metallic door that's kind of like this circular door, and on it there is a um let's see if it actually describes it. Um, yeah, so it has a large like mirror set into the center of its surface, and on the outside of this mirror, you have 10 little holes that kind of sit around it in like essentially what is it like every 18 degrees? No, it'll be every 36 degrees, so they're evenly spaced around the actual circle. And then there's basically like a large, almost like handle, that kind of wraps around the entirety of this little like portcullis, or like if you think of like a submarine, like the porthole.
So I think yeah. So Kiranos is going to kind of he's gonna maybe take out one of the eyeballs, that the crystal eyeballs that they had gotten, just kind of like not go to put it in, but essentially just kind of hold it up to try to confirm like it's the right size.
It would seem that it would fit directly into one of those holes.
Yeah. So he'll kind of like turn back towards Ernie, and seems like we might be missing one.
Yeah. Uh, where do we think we could find it though? Oh, we haven't gone into that room uh, north of the pit. Should we check that out?
Must be somewhere we haven't gone yet. So imagine that's a good place to start.
So you all kind of like move back out of this area, leaving the mirror behind, head back out towards the room where you fought the golem, and head to the north side. You see kind of like a stone door that kind of blocks this pit. And you want to say this door is unlocked if you go to try it.
Yeah, Kiranos will go and yeah, try to open it.
So when you open the door, you are going to see a large, relatively cylindrical room that almost has kind of like a cone shape towards the base, like where you are. There are a bunch of stone faces that are kind of mounted all along this room, along the floor, along the ceilings, along the walls. And all of these faces are this very familiar demonoid face that's like screaming out in pain and joy. Whatever it is doing, it's the same face you've seen that's just got its maw open and has this gaping mouth, and it has these massive horns coming out of its head, and this room is filled with them. The floor, the ceiling, the walls, and you can just see There's mycelial growth all around this place.
Well, whoever built this place certainly has a style. Yeah, I think Kyranos will. He will move to step in.
And I will. Are you sure that's wise? This room looks
Trying to
familiar,
stop
right?
him from stepping in.
Yeah. This looks. This room looks familiar. Isn't this the same room where we
Let
saw
me
from the
have each
balcony?
of you roll dexterities real quick. Gotcha. So, Henry, when you can continue saying what you were saying, but when he goes to step in, you grab his shoulder and kind of hold him back. Kyranos, you are welcome to fight to like push yourself forward, but at present, when you go to step in, Henry, continue.
And this room looks familiar. This is the same room we saw from the balcony, right? One where we fought a tomb guardian and the lever. And if I remember right, when we turned that lever, it started grinding up everything in here. Don't think it would be wise to go inside, just in case there's someone new to turn the lever.
So Kyranos will let Ernie kind of like stop him from going in, and kind of as Ernie is explaining this, he'll maybe kind of look around a little more carefully from the out.
So when he describes this to you, one thing you'll pick up is you do, with keen mind, recognize this room. From this side, there's nothing but stonework. You can't see the actual window that you all had seen from the other side, giving you a solid clue that whoever is at that lever without being known to whoever steps into this door. So there could be somebody staring through that window in the stone right now.
Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, maybe like with Ernie's kind of reminder, he'll take a little bit of a closer look and be like, "Oh yes, this definitely is that room," and he will kind of give a nod to Ernie and yeah, thank you for
As you give it a closer look, let me have you roll. You can both roll a perception here. So this is one of the things where a 3D kind of nature of the map doesn't always work here. But as you guys are kind of looking, you can see that there is a point in kind of the wall. There is a point in one of the walls where you can see that there's like a drop down kind of circle that opens up, and it seems to be free of this room. It's kind of like a weird, like perspective kind of illusion. When you're looking at it from the doorway, the stone looks like proper. When you almost like step back in Henry, like as you're kind of stepping back to pull him back, you see almost like the little bit of like that perspective change where like the stones in the room don't move in the same way as the stones that you're seeing in this little hole. But there's something weird about this little object in the ceiling. Have a solid idea that there's not like entirely what you see is what you get inside of that room. But for now, that's kind of all you know. You could go in there and try to investigate it closer. You could, well, if you have any other ideas, you could execute those.
Would it be? I don't know how the ceilings are here. Would it be close enough for Kiranos to try to use his mage hand to try and essentially kind of like feel around in that area?
You could move the mage hand through the stone, like through that like illusion, and kind of beyond, and you could see that like this, like you could even further see it as the mage hand moves in. You could basically kind of move through that hole in the ceiling.
Oh, so like it would be large enough to actually like for the party
Either
members
of,
to move through.
yeah, an actual person could move through the hole.
What do you think, Ernie?
Oh, to be honest, I would prefer not going into the that room, but check maybe. Still, I would prefer if we didn't have to.
I forgot about giving you stuff like that just because of your high passive perception.
Well,
Uh,
we do have uh, that great outside uh, balcony with lever. You see that as well. Could explore that first before we check this out.
there's also that golden skull on the pedestal.
That is true. We did never check it out. But though you did tell us that didn't seem like something the Umaran practiced. All that gold. It's probably a trap, but still.
Well, it could be something like this chest that Zeros is telling us about, the one where they lost Jarek. Perhaps just simply you have to activate the trap and somehow find a way to survive in order to be rewarded. But suppose if you'd prefer we investigate some other areas before trying here, couldn't hurt. It
Oh,
could hurt
thank you.
quite a lot, but so what? Where would you like to start?
I think I'd prefer to start with that grate on the wall. See what that is. And from there on, maybe see where we go from there.
Sorry, just remind me what grate on the wall we're talking about?
Back
Uh,
inside of the like leaping room.
Oh, right. Gotcha. Yep, forgot about that. Sorry. Yeah, that sounds worth investigating.
So if I can speak from the perspective of one of your sidekicks, Zeros will kind of bring up to you all, uh, if we believe that to right the gods is the meaning of this room, the walls of history were within Kubazan's sepulcher. The vulture was for Ijin, Slake Chateau was the other two eyes, and walk through water with weapons in hand was for the Hall of Water. Do we believe there is any more left to accomplish here?
So you believe perhaps the that last eyeball may be on another level? We did never.
Like the skull, do we need to accomplish those things? Or are they like the same trick that cost us Jarek?
Hmm. You're saying you think perhaps it's one of his tricks, get us to scramble about trying to find all 10 of those eyeballs, only to have something nasty waiting for us on the other side. I could see it. I could see us doing something like that. From what all we've gone through so far.
It is difficult to see through all of the tricks, but we know everything about this place is designed to kill us. And we know the warnings will lead us there, and are vague enough for us to choose our own deaths. I will follow you where you decide to go. That is all I have to say. And then, like, with that thought, he'll just kind of like looking back towards Henry, to the greats.
That maybe it's like the warning said, we have done everything with the warnings. Maybe it's better to go down to the next floor then, see where that leads us.
Well, now that you mentioned now that you reminded me of those, I'm rather curious about what's in there. How how high up on the wall from our vantage point is this?
Effectively, the level of all of these balconies as well as all of the steps. Let me ask you something. This is not the type of thing that I tend to write in my notes. Do you remember when you rolled and got shot by uh the beholder's beam? Did you actually recognize it as a beholder?
Not that I recall. I don't think. I think Kyrinos just saw the eye stalk. I don't think the whole thing came up. Um,
Yeah.
or if it did, I think maybe if you would have
I
proceeded
was
to hand me.
vaguely thinking we only spoke about it as like the beholder's out of character.
Yeah, I don't think Kyrinos in character knows what attacked him. Yeah, with any specificity. He's too busy trying not to be disintegrated.
So you guys have that little thing. Effectively, again, inside of this room, without the winds driving you insane, like the winds are there, like you can hear them. I think Henry is probably the only one who might have noticed that the wind blows out in each direction. Like it's not meant to be a natural wind. It is certainly a magical place. But without the winds actually blowing while that lever is pulled down, this place isn't terribly dangerous for you all. Again, between all of you, I think Zeros is probably the only one who can't easily do a lot of this athletic stuff. Um, So it's one of those things where, a champion fighter is super athletic by level 7. Like one of their abilities is just straight up like that they're athletic. Um Henry, you were leaping across these things without any problems. And with Kubazan inside of you, you're a beast. So I would say the three of you looking to where that grade is, not terribly difficult to get to. Perhaps the most difficult thing might be that you need to get there and like remove the grate first. But in the long run, I wouldn't put that as a terribly difficult challenge for you. You guys know enough, like wrap somebody with a little bit of rope, hold close to them, and get somebody over there to pull the grate off, and you can make your egress into that little tunnel. Um, but is that where you guys would like to go, or do you want to do something other?
Kuranos would like to investigate it, and he'll volunteer to be the one to go and essentially leap across and kind of pull the grate, try and get the grate open.
Do you wait for anybody to like tie a rope, or do you just leap over and pull the grate off?
I feel like maybe with Kubazan, he will. He's kind of now he's set. He's gonna be like, yeah, maybe he won't wait.
Gotcha.
He's
Do a strength athletics for me. And do you have inspiration right now?
I do.
Henry, do you have inspiration right now?
I do.
Use those more often, guys, because I'll give you inspiration for leaping without tying a rope around yourself. So Kumazan is about to jump right over, and as you leap across for this thing,
Like catch my
um,
toe on the balcony or something.
yeah, it's definitely that kind of thing.
I do have.
Yeah, I think more realistically, what do you think?
I was gonna say, as if he starts to fall down into the chasm, he can cast off feather fall.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like realistically, you are leaping across. You get there without any problem. You go to grab onto the actual grates and find that there's nothing to steady you. You pull them right out of the wall and are just tumbling down into this thing. So I would say, yeah, feather fall before you land. Um, cushion your fall. You were down there. They can throw you ropes if you have something that gives you the ability to levitate or fly. You could do that with impatience, but otherwise they can throw you ropes to get you back up there. Um, but yeah, you basically leap over and like the grate can't actually hold you as you like go to steady yourself.
Yeah, so it's too far for him to misty step back up. So he'll be like, maybe take a few moments to kind of soothe his wounded pride before he calls up. Well,
Is Misty Step a reaction as well, though?
bonus action.
Gotcha. I feel like that's one of those things. Keep in mind, you can almost do the two of those things often, where you could have like Misty stepped into the tunnel just as easily as fallen. Is Misty Step that's level 2 though, right? Or is that level 1 as well?
Misty step, I think, is 2.
Yeah, so we'll say in this one, because you were not expecting to find yourself falling, feather fall is definitely the thing you go for. It's certainly more in line with what that does. But I would say in general, you're outside of combat. The action economy, whether it's reaction or bonus, isn't a big deal to me. Um, Often, I think you have a choice to yourself which one of those two you want to do. Because I feel like, yeah, if you wanted to, you could misty step yourself into that tunnel just the same.
Okay, yeah, I think just because it was unexpected, I'm gonna I'll go with feather fall because he kind of almost maybe like panicked a little bit and just cast it as he started falling, not thinking immediately of um, misty stepping, and then but maybe by the time he thought of it, it was kind of he'd already fallen a little bit too far. Um,
Yeah, I feel like that is perfectly in line with rolling a nat one like that, where it's completely unexpected that anything bad happens. You make it across that gap. You're only leaping like 10 feet. you've leapt 15, 20 feet in some of these instances before. Like, to imagine that failing was not even on the options.
Yeah. So, but assuming they can get a rope down to him, he will move to climb back up. Um, kind of maybe offer a little bit of a sheepish grin, and maybe he's even got like the grate. He's holding it in one hand as he climbed back up. He's like, I, sometimes I still forget my own strength.
When you said the sheepish grin, were you recognizing that you are like 100% a goat right now?
That was not intended, but
It's just
yeah,
another instance where I want to casually give you another inspiration because that's hilarious.
yeah. No, that was not a. Was the pun was not intended there, but I'll keep it in mind for the future.
Because I think you've rested your full 3 days where you're fully transformed into this goat-like human.
Yeah, I think at this point it has been definitely been 3 days.
I think like when you hold a fist, your fingernails look a lot more like hooves, and like your fingers in your hands look a lot more like hooves than they do like a hand. So, uh, do you want to go again? Does somebody else want to lead across after you basically throw a rope down to Kiranos, or like a doubled up rope? Because again, it is like 60 feet. You can climb back up. Um, just gonna leap right back for it again, or is somebody else gonna go?
Aaron will feel like, maybe I should go first now that you've gotten the grate off. Uh,
All right. Then Kyrnos will move to make room for Ernie.
So you can do athletics if you want to try to leap over and like steady yourself, like one hand against each wall of the stone and kind of use force to steady yourself and land. Or you can do an acrobatics if you want to attempt to like roll into the tunnel and like basically just do like head first like roll instead of like trying to steady yourself at the entrance. I hope that kind of makes sense. But athletics or acrobatics.
yeah, I think I should go for acrobatics. I am tempted to use my inspiration now just to not roll a 1.
I mean, you can also have somebody tie a rope to you. He's got Kubazan who like bravery, like what is it? It's actually like bravery and like the level of arrogance, right?
Yeah, I mean, she
Yes.
would take a rope.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
you guys can tie a rope to her, and Kiranos is strong as fuck, so he can hold it and steady you. It's up to you if you would like to use your inspiration, but you're not going to fall in the same way he could or was risking falling.
Yeah, no, I'll just roll straight. See.
Yeah, pretty seamlessly. You just kind of leap forward, kind of like hands out, almost as if you're diving into water. Only this water is kind of directly in front of you. And as you kind of roll into this room, you can spot a little bit more. Like, I assume Kiranos is doing like light at the top of the ram's head again. You can see some of the light at very least from the torch to the south. By the time you roll into that room, you're going to actually roll up against another one of these grates and kind of like pop it out of like steady place where it sits. So it almost like kind of pops out. You'll smell some of this mycelial mass, and you can see at the end of this little hall that you've like rolled through that there's some more of this like purple on the outside, and there seems to be well, actually, I guess technically you can't see the color until you have actual light, but effectively you can kind of see like there's another like little hallway where this grate kind of blocks it off.
And Kyrnos will move to leap back across once Ernie is across, and I guess he would be kind of shedding light again, kind of lit up the ram's head on his staff.
Gotcha. Same thing. Let me get an athletics from you. If you wanted to kind of do something like acrobatic, like yeah, you can just leap across and just like getting your hooves inside of the little crawl space can steady yourself, and you too fill up that whole space. But once you actually have light in there and it starts to spill out, Henry from the other side of the grate can kind of see what you'll see probably about like 15 or so feet down the hall to the west of you. You can see the hall is about 5 feet wide. You can make out a little bit of. I think there's no reason to say you can't make out that there's another grate in the wall, kind of just outside of you. But from what you can see inside of there, it's nothing but like mycelial growth and like a marble kind of stone hallway.
Yeah, she'll relay that back to Karen. I'll try to get in here, and she just hop off that other grate, completely up so she can get in.
And you're not actually carrying light, or wait, you have Starfallen, don't you?
No, Kyrinos has Star Fallen at the moment. Taryn used to have her, but
So at present, are you moving around with any light source? Otherwise, you can hop into that, and you can kind of see like the hall is effectively a dead end to your right, um, like to the east, as far as the map's concerned. And then you can see kind of down off into the distance, the mycelium starts to give way where it is just like the stonework of the hallway. It's hard for you to tell what else is in this hall inside of like the dim light.
I guess she would light her light up her bullseye lantern in here just to give herself more light. She's going first.
So when you light up the bullseye lantern, you'll see that this hall only extends in one direction, and it is effectively west. And this is another kind of moment where I was kind of saying, like, the 3D aspect of this map doesn't fully work, but you can see once you shine your bullseye down to the west that this hall comes to an end in kind of a rounded um dead end, and there is an oculus of like a rounded like stone portal that looks down into the floor. So these two little hallways that I have removed here, when you like, this is all the same hall that you're currently.
Gotcha. Okay.
Those like two orange pieces there are connected. So if you keep moving like 40 feet to the west, you're going to get closer and closer to that circle. If you go and investigate it, you will quickly see that that circle stares right down into that room with the grinders. That is effectively where you had the mage hand coming up into this hallway before.
Yeah, she would go investigate it just to look down. But yes, she would tell that to Karen. This hallway here just seems to lead to that room you were in before. It seems to be looking down on it.
Well, at least now we know where it leads. What about this grate up here?
Shining a little bit of lights to that northern grate, you can see that it has another crawl space in it that continues off in that direction.
We would check this out. Should we tell the others to come with us though, before we go any further?
Sure. And Kyrnos will kind of move back into the space, and he'll probably he'll use message to let the others know, rather than trying to shout over the wind. Basically, just telling them, "All right, come on, there's room now. Come and join us."
Yeah, and Quinn will just jump over immediately. No, no hesitation.
Just roll 2d20 for me with Quinn, or you can do an athletics. She needs just two not ones. She is perfectly fine leaping across.
And Zeros he'll definitely show a little more hesitation, but he will try to get across to join them as well.
So when he goes to leap, do you guys have a rope that is leading to that hall at this point? Or do you guys have no ropes left?
Ernie, did you come across with the rope? I don't think Kiranos would have. He would have just kind of like almost already forgotten that he tried once and fell and just jumped across again.
Yeah, I've done it. I did have the rope on me when I went over, and Kiernos held it. But trying- if we did anything with that, or we just like she's over now, tied it off, and pull it up again.
Well, I mean, Zeros has some rope, so he could call over to Quinn and ask her to essentially, like, he'll toss her some rope, and maybe he can use that. She can help pull him over.
Is he tying it to himself so she can steady him?
Yeah, I think he'll try and, essentially kind of harness himself into it as best he can.
Gotcha. Let me get whenever you're ready then. He can do athletics or acrobatics. Solid. Leaps over, steadies himself, a hand on each side of the wall, and you've got all four people across that little chasm.
Yeah, so Kiranos will go to kind of get the grate open so they can crawl in. And I guess he'll offer to lead the way, head in first.
Well, if Kiernos is leading it, then Ernie will turn off her lantern. They have the light from Kiernos' staff.
So as you kind of like round the corner of this little crawl space and look down, you'll see that about 15 or so feet to your right, there's a sheet of metal that seems to be blocking the crawl space. You can make out, let me actually get a perception check from you at this point. You can make out there's like an etched face inside of this, and it takes you a second maybe to figure out that it's like a bull's head, and that there's two kind of like eye sockets that are opened up, and your light from the ram's head is kind of scattering through this to the other side of the crawl space. But it just seems like those eyeballs are cut out of this otherwise bull's head that is like etched into this metal blockade.
So Kieran also kind of describe that back to the others as he starts moving towards it. And do these like kind of eye holes are they in a position that he would be able to try to look through himself to the other side?
100%. Like if you held the staff up to one and kind of like used your right eye to look through the left eye while your staff was against its right eye, you could kind of look through and see that you are shining light onto the other side of this crawl space.
Yeah, so that's what he would do.
You see the crawl space goes on for another like 15 or so feet. Um, on the other side of this space, yeah, I think that's just in this artwork. My bad. Well, we'll stick with how it's described right now. Just like an etched face of a bull on an otherwise flat piece of metal that blocks your way.
So I think Kyrnos is going to maybe kind of like taking the head of the staff and just kind of tapping it, trying to get a sense for how thick this metal sheet is.
Let me get an insight from you. That's wisdom. Yeah, I feel like that's good to kind of like gain a sense. It's probably about like a half or quarter inch thick, kind of like metallic plating, perhaps steel.
Um,
Oh my bad. It says 1 inch thick here. I'm not sure if that makes a whole big difference, but
yeah, it was more to yeah get a sense if it thinks it's something you essentially kind of like bash through, or if
yeah,
it's kind
it's
of
not like a 3 inch thick door or like something like that.
yeah. So he'll look back towards Ernie, and I might be able to break past this. Uh,
Do we need
yeah,
to break it though? Is there some way to move it? Maybe tried.
I suppose I could.
Henry looking from behind you is like looking at it, and Henry's pretty sure it would slide into the ceiling.
Yeah, just tell him that. Like, have you tried lifting it? Seems like it slides up into the ceiling.
Ah, right. Yes. All right. And he
Roll in
will.
athletics for me. You slide it up into the ceiling with next to no problem at all. You hear a little click. Do you want to let go?
I guess hearing the click, he'll probably try and actually quickly move to the other side.
Like holding it the whole time, and you'll move to the other side?
Yeah, maybe like trying to hold it up and going. Yeah.
Yeah. So you hold it up, move to the other side. Again, this artwork shows it as if like this minotaur head is 3 dimensional. It's supposed to be etched into the steel. That's part of why I was saying like this art that the map is a little bit off of what I would say reality.
Gotcha. Yeah, and then I think he'll probably have to let it go before moving to try and make room for the others.
So he moves out of the way. Is Henry going under, moving across?
Yeah, she'll move across, not staying underneath it for any longer time. Just quickly getting to the other side.
Kiranos can see that the crawl space continues on and kind of starts to move to the south. And you can see more of this mycelium. Is Quinn moving across?
Yeah, as soon as it gets into space, she's moving across.
You know, kick out the grate in front of you, Kiranos.
Uh, yeah, I think Kyrnos will go ahead and do that, and Zeros will try and go to move and join the others on the other side here.
Gotcha. So Zeros, as you move through, it's looking like about 5 seconds after you move through, you're gonna hear, and that thing is going to slide down and smash into the stonework. Probably a little bit closer than you would have hoped for.
Missed me by that much. Yeah, so
You
Kyrnos,
might look and find a little bit of your cloak though is cut off.
yeah, so that'll, yeah, Zeros be maybe a little bit shaken by that, and maybe utter a little prayer to his patron. Um,
But as you guys get to this other hallway, and Kirino steps out, you'll pretty quickly notice, like the hall to the north leads back to the grand staircase. Um, Probably have a pretty solid idea from just like the moisture in the air and the sound of falling water nearby that you are approaching the room. That is the kind of like water room that you've passed through a few times now. You guys have a solid sense at this point where you are, in this hallway that you've seen previously, to Dead End here. And again, I probably could have described for Henry's passive perception that you would have seen that wouldn't great or that great there, but definitely missed some of those things where your passive is like enough to just spot them.
yeah, so seems like this point, Ernie, perhaps we should just make our way down, as you suggested. Next level.
So if I can play devil's advocate and point out the last two of these potential spots that are crawl spaces that Henry would have noticed, and I think you guys have also forgotten about. Taryn spotted this one, but Henry would have definitely seen it when she had gone by up in the north, near Ejin's. And then there is another one of these that is just beyond one of these storks, that is in the water room.
Oh, on the other side. Yeah, might as well. Yeah, explore the rest of this floor then.
Are we? Shall we want to do that though?
Of course.
All right then.
Zeros silently holds up his cloak that has been cut short via that wonderful Minotaur guillotine, and then drops it and follows you guys.
Yeah, Kyrnos will kind of move. He will take the one of the tridents and kind of move through.
Yeah, you guys got this one. Walk through with the tridents from the frogs. I think pass the tridents back through once you're already through, and everybody can get through with those 4 tridents.
Yeah, kind of once um, Ernie or Taryn, or uh, if Taryn had pointed this one out, or if Ernie points this one out, Kyrnos will go to. If this is another kind of grate, he will go to get this grate open as well to see what might lie down this crawl space.
So when you light up this crawl space, you see that it continues off for about 30 or so feet to the east. And then it turns northward. And then from there, you'll see, what is it? You have the light spell is 30 feet?
Uh, 20 feet bright and then 20 feet dim.
Gotcha. So you can see about like halfway down this corridor that it continues off to the north before it's kind of dim light that you can see that it continues off to the. I don't know if you can see the direction that it turns inside of the dim light, but you can see that there's another straight corridor here.
Yeah, so Kiranos will continue on, start heading down. Maybe just like encouraging the others, like, come on, come on. As he keeps going.
Everybody pretty well following together here.
Yeah, Ernie will maybe be a little bit further back than usual, but just
How much space are you giving him?
an extra 5 feet, I think. So
How much space is Zeros leaving behind Henry?
He's kind of right on Ernie's tail, so he's trying to stay close.
yeah, and
So I'm going to place you guys here for a second here.
Okay.
So when Kiranos gets to the center point of this little tunnel, well, it's you guys can't actually tell that it's a center point, but I know it's a center point. When Kiranos gets about 15 feet in front of this turn, he's going to come across this area. Henry, you're going to notice there's a little section beneath my feet. Oh, and this hallway starts to spin. Uh, Zeros and Quinn are going to be blocked off. And as you guys feel this spin of this hall, you're going to feel like a very subtle kind of drop in this as you guys spin 90 degrees. Does Zeros or Quinn have a source of light?
Zeros.
We can take out a torch, but nothing else.
So they'll be left in darkness as this stone starts to spin away and you guys basically disappear. The stone, as they watch it in darkness, you just hear kind of the grinding for the first few seconds. How fast do you think they would create light?
I mean, the Quinn would fumble about in the dark a bit before finding torch and
So by the
light.
time she gets light created, the stone has kind of gone silent. And when you guys kind of look down that little corridor, it's that same idea. There's just a straight corridor in front of them. They cannot see Kiranos in the center of the corridor. The two of you are now looking essentially at this corridor. From your perspective, not much has really changed. Only now there is nowhere to go in front of you, Kiranos. It is stone. And behind you, Henry, is stone. And I might have described that wrong. Once they have light, Zeros can see that there is a corpse in the center of the tunnel ahead of him.
Yeah, so Zeros is actually he will light up a torch as well, so we have a little extra light, but he will move forward to kind of calling for Quinn to come and take a look at the this corpse. Probably like initial thought is like, oh no, it's one of ours, but
Zeros and Quinn go into there.
Yeah, Quinn will follow. She won't risk it.
As Zeros gets to the center, they are going to slide and they go the opposite direction as it basically spins the two of you back to where you can see that there is a hall turning to the left in front of you, to the right behind you, and you guys are now flip flopped where they are. Let me.
So Kyranos and Ernie are back where they were before, and essentially, gotcha.
Yeah, except now we can't see Quinn or Ceres. That they've disappeared.
Kyranos is going to try calling out to Zeros and Quinn, trying to see if they can hear.
I want to say there was something about it not having sound go through, but I feel like.
I mean, depending on how thick the stone is, it might just be like naturally, like sound's not going to get through.
Yeah, I don't see where it says anything about it. So I'm gonna say, yeah, you can basically yell off, and um, I'd say it's probably more that you can confirm that they are nearby more than that you can communicate with each other. So it's more that each of you can hear kind of like screams and yells from the other, but not necessarily that you can actually make out words.
Gotcha. So Kyranos is going to suggest maybe he and Ernie back up a bit, try to figure this out. And so does Kyranos have a pretty good idea of when, like, where he kind of how far along this corridor he moved before the stone did its thing?
I think that would make sense with keen mind that you basically recognize um what is it? I feel like in the center you might have either the most recognition of the fact that you're spinning or the least. But I feel like it's one or the other. But
If it's the center, it would be the least.
that's
Like
the
you won't know.
least.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would almost say, but then you've got Henry in there who's got a high perception, and she was on the absolute outside of it. She would have the highest feeling from the centrifugal force of it. So I think between the two of you, you could recognize when you started to spin. Um, Henry and you can basically figure out was when you got to that center point. You know, when you got like 15 feet into that little corridor. Or actually, I think it's 20 from the turns. And then it's like 15 feet is the diameter of the circle that spins. And then I think Einria would make sense for you to recognize that it spins about 5 feet down when you guys went in, and then it came back that like back up that 5 feet when they went in.
Yep. Sorry about that. Got some coffee now. I'm good.
Honestly, that was my first thought as soon as you guys tripped the trap and had an idea of what was going on. That's one of the things I was thinking is let's take a break, let them think about the trap. So when you said that, it was like, yep, that confirms it. So what are you guys thinking here? What kind of thoughts do you all have about this at this present moment?
Yeah. So I guess yeah. So if the corpse is still in there with Zeros and Quinn, then probably a little bit of panic, as Zeros realizes they're cut off from the others, and but then he will look to the corpse and try to take a closer look at that. maybe there's something on there that'll tell us what's going on.
You can go perception if you're just looking for things like for clues, or you can go investigation if you're actually like touching stuff and like rifling through the corpse.
Yeah, I think he'd be rifling through. So go investigation here.
So I think kind of like a quick little rifle through, you will spot that this person was holding one of those eyes. There is a, I think, ruby 1 inch crystal eyeball that the thing has. But kind of other than this idea, yeah, red crystal eyeball. Kind of other than the idea that this thing had that, you see it's got some equipment. There's like a holy symbol, but you're basically scattering everything else as you kind of look to it, and eventually, like nothing really of interest to you before you see this eyeball kind of like falls from one of its little pouches. Um, but again, this is kind of one of those things like the way you're going through it, you're scattering things. Like there's coin and whatnot on it. You're just not paying attention to it.
Yeah, I think Zeros once he spots the eyeball, it'd be almost pretty much like well, the only thing he can focus on. Um, so he would kind of like grab it and like kind of turn to look to Quinn, and then kind of looking around again and realize like still need to figure out how to get back to the others. Um, any give on the wall on your end, Quinn? Perhaps there's some pressure point or button or something.
But we'll turn around and just like try to like rap on the mall a little bit, mm, knocking it, see like if anything gives.
Roll a insight for me. There's no give to this stone at all.
Yeah, with that she'll just like turn back to Sarah's and giving a bit of a shrug, like, yeah, no, nothing.
Hmm.
Ernie would pipe up to Kyranos though and just go, seems like whatever triggered when you went into the center. So maybe there's a pressure plate there or something to activate it.
Do you want to go in there and check it out, Henry?
Yeah, Andrew will like squeeze past Kyranos and go up, not to the center where it started to activate, but like where she can just look, see if she can. Guess she would like touch with her hands, like see if they're like press down in front of her to see if there's anything that gives.
Roll an insight with advantage. Or wait, you said you're just looking to see if it gives?
Yeah, not to press down on it like fully,
Gotcha.
but
So
more like
at present, yeah, you can find there's a pressure plate in the center.
she will call back to Kyranos about that. There is a pressure plate here. Not sure how much would be needed to activate it though.
Well, I could try it with the with my mage hand. It might not be enough, but I'll try.
Yeah, yes, let me get back beforehand then. And she'll squeeze past Kyranos again.
And Kyrinos will he'll maybe he'll kind of like shout to like try to shout to Zeros and Quinn like, we're going to try something. And then he will summon his mage hand and try to can only press down probably with like 10 pounds of force, but he will try to see if that's enough to trigger the pressure plate.
So again, they kind of hear like a muffled, and then you move the mage hand in and press down. Nothing happens.
How immediate was the um like the turning of the stone? Because Kiranos' other idea is maybe if he moves kind of like steps on the pressure plate himself and then like essentially immediately tries to cast Misty Step to move himself back, but he would have to be able to still see his destination.
It was pretty immediate, but I'm going to say this is one of those things where you can certainly try that.
Yeah, I think well, he'll turn to Aaron. He's like, unless you've got any other ideas, see if I can be quick enough to
Yeah, we can try that. Worst comes to worst, we'll just activate the trap again from. Well, I mean, she wouldn't know exactly how it looks, but you just know that it activated again. So. Yeah, I should probably just go. We'll try to activate the trap again to get you up.
All right. So Kiranos will move forward, and so you try to
So
be ready.
what I'm going to do, I'm going to have you roll initiative. If you'd like, you have inspiration. You can use that to try to be quicker, but you are looking to roll higher than a particular number I have in mind to try to do this faster than it moves.
I will. Yeah, we'll use inspiration then.
So let me have you roll initiative as you step onto the center plate and see how fast you react.
Mm-mm.
By the time you go to teleport out of this, the stone has already kind of like slid and closed off the gap, and you just like teleport to the end of this little barricade. So Kiranos is kind of like, oh wait, it would have been backward. My bad. Kiranos and Kiranos is alone in that little hall. So you can still plot and plan with like Zeros and Henry as the two of you guys now that you have a little bit more information. But at very least, if he's going to try multiple times, Kiranos was not fast enough to Misty Step the first time.
Yeah. What if we? So Zeros will suggest to Ernie. What if we go? If we can try to recover like one of the corpses and use that and try and toss it onto the plate. That might be enough weight to trigger it to let Uranus back to join us.
We could try. That is certainly an idea. Yeah, Quinn would just squeeze past Sol as well. Just getting back in there.
All right. What corpses do you all have in mind?
Um, I guess the closest one that might still be there, as Eros is thinking, is the dwarf corpse from the tomb of Ijin. I guess that, or we could just try to maybe like take a couple of our packs and combined the weight might be as much as like a person.
Yes, but if we throw in a pack, then we'll probably lose that one.
I guess the other option is try to destroy enough of the, essentially kind of blast through the stone wall and hope that it makes an opening.
I'm not entirely comfortable blasting through stone wall while inside a cramped space here. Feel like that
All
would be too dangerous.
right, well, those are the only ideas I have.
Yeah, we could try the corpse, see if that works, and if not, we'll just have to sacrifice a pack or two, I guess. Uh, and Erna will, together with Quinn, volunteer to go get the dwarf corpse from Aegean's tube. It's still there.
Gotcha. What are you grabbing?
Like, I'm not sure how the dwarf corpse is. Was it like skeletal remains or?
He is indeed skeletal remains.
I guess I would try to just pick up. I'm not sure if he has had any armor on him, but like the rib cage at least. The things that I would think would be the heaviest.
I think he just had a shield.
Well, if we had a shield,
Yeah, I don't see what armor, but a shield is like 6 pounds. So that's probably the heaviest thing. And then I'm trying to look up how much a skeleton weighs. I don't really have a good solution to it. I feel like I'm definitely on an FBI watch list now.
I guess the another thought Zeros might have is, so he can cast, he can essentially summon a creature. I just don't know how much it would, like if he summons an aberrant spirit. I don't know if, and it seems like it says it's corporeal, so presumably that means it weighs like what a normal creature that corporeal form would weigh. But
You want to try that?
I mean, I feel like he would know if it's like, if it's weightless or not. Presumably he's cast it before.
But you also haven't cast it yet. So this is still kind of the first time that you'll be casting it with him.
All right, yeah, he'll try it.
So you can cast it and summon. Is it always the aberrant spirits, or is that just the one you're choosing?
Well, since it's always an aberrant spirit, there's different forms, so he'd probably cast it with a star spawn form.
Yeah, medium. I see no reason that this creature would not when he summons it. I assume summoning towards that center portion where you guys are talking about, um, where you assume this next pressure plate is, summoning it in that position. When he casts it, the halls are going to start to turn, and when the aberrant spirit disappears as the walls turn, you will see Kyranos a mere few seconds later as the stone comes to a grinding halt, and Kyranos is essentially directly in front of Zeros.
All right, and I think Zeros kind of glad that worked. Is going to basically we don't need that thing is going to be trapped on the other side, so he's just going to um, essentially drop his concentration on it, dismiss the spell now that it's kind of done what he needed it to. But he will, now that all four of them together, and I guess this will be the first time he's seen Kyranos again, to tell him that we did at least recover seemingly the 10th of the crystal eyeballs. At which point Kyranos will suggest that we try to make our way back to that door with the hatch and see if we can get it open now that we have all 10.
Erna will be I don't know. It feels like the way you talked about this place and the traps that you've seen. I feel like that might be more dangerous than just keeping going forward down the tomb. Said we'd done everything that the warnings told us about, so this is outside of that. Do we really need to
But
investigate a possible danger?
no, we've gone to all the trouble of retrieving them. I'd like to see what's behind that door. If you'd rather hang back, I'm perfectly willing to put them in. And
I
aren't
am
you
not that
curious as
detailed.
an archaeologist?
I'm curious, but I don't have a death wish. And this tomb so far seems like one big death wish.
Well, in that case, there's no saying that descending to the next level is any less dangerous than putting in the eyeballs. So, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
I can't dissuade you from this, can I?
Probably not. But of course, I'm not going to force you to, if you'd like to hang back.
I mean, if you're gonna, I'm not gonna leave you alone. Uh, Not in here. Uh, I'll be with you. Though maybe a couple of steps further back than usual.
Excellent, then. Yeah, and so with that, Kyrnos will start moving to try to kind of squeeze back past Ernie and Quinn, and um, guess probably the most.
I'm pretty sure it's certain death ahead of us. I don't want to go there. Well, that's fine. You can stay, and I'm going to go there. Well, I don't want to leave you alone. What a fucking choice. So you guys can head back over and make your way back to the Golem's lab. You just check random encounter. There is none. As you guys progress, you've got a few different options how you make your way there now. I think you guys should kind of recognize you kind of have three general choices how you can make that path. I guess really two. But you kind of make your way back over, find yourselves in front of that same mirror door, and it has the 10 little, like 1 inch alcoves for each of these 10 crystal eyeballs. And you see yourselves in this mirror. Who would like to put the first one in?
I think that would be Kyranos. I guess he will collect uh, the eyeballs that Ernie or the others are carrying, assuming they don't want to be part of this.
Yeah, no, Erna will gladly give her eyeballs to you.
So let me start with Kyranos rolling a perception real quick.
Sure. Yeah, I was just about to ask, like, if there's any like noticeable difference. I know you said they were evenly spaced, but
So you get one or two of these in before Henry kind of like from behind you almost like moves you out of the way, just kind of like sliding your shoulder to the side and sees like she looks sickly in this mirror. And then you kind of like move yourself back in frame and take a little bit more of a moment to recognize that you too look ill in this mirror now. And before you had put the eyes in, you're relatively sure that the mirror was giving you a mirror image. And you almost like each of you can like look at your hand in front of your eyes and then like reflect your hand against the mirror. And you can see it's almost like gaunt. It's almost like loss of color, seems whiter, as if your blood isn't flowing the same way. And that's just with two of these in. You put a third, you look even more, four, even sicklier. And you're kind of gaining a sense that with each of these eyes that you put into this circular kind of like portcullis, this mirror is showing you more and more ill, closer and closer to death.
once the eyeballs are in, can they be taken back out, or are they essentially like it's? I guess if they were
I
able
bet
to.
each eyeball also lights up as you insert it. Um, I don't know, for making you look progressively unhealthier as you do this, it doesn't actually say whether you can remove the eyepieces. So I'm gonna say yes, you could remove them if you would like to.
I mean, mostly he's curious whether if doing so starts to reverse. Essentially, if he starts to look more hale, if he takes one of the ones he's already put in, like if it's essentially it reverses or it keeps like the same image, um, regardless if he's like essentially like once he's put it in, that's kind of it.
It's definitely harder to notice like one at a time how much of a progression is like showing up. But if you pop back out like two or three of them, so there's like one or two inside of the door, you do notice like you look healthier in this than you did when you had like four or five inside of the door.
Gotcha. Yeah, he's gonna look back towards Ernie and it just be some sort of illusion. It's simply meant to scare us, like Zeros, you were telling us about that countdown trap in the entrance, right?
Or maybe it's a warning not to go in there.
It certainly seems to be some sort of magic at work.
And keep in mind, guys, there's like tons of this mycelium all around you. There are tiny little eye stalks looking at you right now.
I feel like Kyrnos, because of Kubazan, he's willing to take risks. He's thinking this is just like this is um, just trying to scare him. So I feel like he's going to keep going.
So continuing on, placing more and more eyes into these little sockets as they light up, as you all are reflected more and more unhealthy. No other arguments from anyone from Zeros, Quinn, or Henry. You all are letting Kyranos progress, and everybody is behind him.
Henry would point out like every time he puts in now. It's like it is getting worse, progressively worse, and this feels more like a warning to not go in there. And Azrak has given us warning for things dangerous, like the plaques and all the things. I feel like this seems worse, to be honest.
Um, Maybe if we knew what kind of magic was at work, we'd give us a clue as to whether you're right. Would try to discern what sort of magic, if any, is on uh, this doorway, but it's going to take me some time, about 10 minutes or so.
Well, that's perfectly fine with me. No rush.
Because I think the eyeballs themselves didn't seem to be magical, right? So I think when the last time you cast detect magic,
They were not.
yeah. So maybe he'll kind of go and retrieve the eyeballs out of the doorway, and then kind of ask the others to just kind of keep an eye out. And then I guess Kyranos will try to start ritually casting detect magic, hoping to discern if there's magic on the door. Be more worrying maybe if it was like necromancy magic versus illusion magic or something like that. So he's just hoping maybe if he can discern what sort of magic is, if any, is on this door, it might give him a hint as to whether Ernie's worries are correct, or if he's overthinking, if Kyranos is overthinking kind of things, or just taking a overly stupid risk. So
So you removed all of the eyes from the door. I assume everybody's going to wait while Kyranos casts detect magic. And then you're going to, I think, find. I still have no magic. I think the mirror may show illusion magic. And I think you may see. Spell I don't. Maybe transmutation magic on the other side of the door. But there's probably a multitude of weak auras that are emitting the transmutation magic.
Yeah,
My bad, though. Does that answer everything, or did you have any other questions that you could reiterate to me?
I think that's all. So Kyrnos will he would relay that to the others. He's like the illusion magic on the mirror is making him think that the essentially the sight of them growing like weaker and weaker as he puts in the eyeballs is um it's like maybe an attempt to scare the kind of the multiple auras on the other side of transmutation magic might be a little bit more worrying. He's not really sure what to make of those so much, but I mean if well, we have the eyeballs. We know this place is here. Perhaps we investigate um, the next level, and you can always come back, I suppose.
That is totally fine with me.
Kyrnos is kind of like he's trying to essentially kind of push away Cubazon because Cubazon definitely wants him to just kind of press forward, but he is kind of cognizant that he could be right, but he could also be very very wrong, and he doesn't want to he doesn't want to risk everybody, so he's going to kind of let his own cautiousness. He will defer to Ernie and the others' concerns and leave this place be for now, I think.
Gotcha. So 9 crystal eyes in hand, and kind of like keep to your staunch will, and you all leave this place.
Yeah, I think Kyrnos will maybe glance back towards the mirror once or twice as he's kind of letting the others kind of yeah, but as he's
You're
following the
perfectly
others.
healthy as you look back with all of the crystals in hand. You're perfectly healthy when you look at the mirror. And that is definitely a drastic difference than when you got up to like 5 or 6 of those crystal eyeballs were in the mirror at one point.
Yeah. Yeah, if it was just the illusion magic, but that I don't know, that transmutation magic is worrying, especially the idea of the fact that there's multiples of them. But yeah, I think yeah, Kyrnos is going to yeah, he'll leave with the others.
As we're leaving, Ernie will just, oh, thank you.
Well, there was, I believe, one other crawl space we hadn't investigated yet, or did you want to, I guess, head down to the next level?
No,
You mean
Or,
the one up by Ijin?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I think for completionist sake, if you guys wanted to, you had that crawl space up by Ijin, and also you guys had mentioned the potential of going back to the Golden Skull.
Right, yeah. You think Ernie up for another crawl space?
sure, we can do that.
I think without too much kind of threat of what's going to happen there, you guys can move along and uh, let me have each of you roll perceptions for me. Let's do it like this. We get caught in the same trap twice in a day. No, I think by the time you guys like investigate through this other one, you kind of recognize that it's pretty much leading you to that same room, and you're able to spot the point where like the slide is, and this time not giving you enough distance that you can trip it without Einri like coming over the actual point where it grinds to a difference. You guys can basically see this is the opposite way into that same trap, basically. Um, I don't know if you guys are zoomed out enough to see it, but I'm essentially revealing it's a more circuitous route to that same spot.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess that just leaves the skull, Ernie. We want to.
Well, to be honest, the skull doesn't interest me that much, as you said before. It doesn't seem to be in a mountain practice. It's probably a setup as a trap, but guess we could check it out if you want to. But I am more curious about the floors below.
So you guys have the option of going to the skull if you would like. As far as going to the floors below, you guys also know you've basically revealed the staircase that is kind of the back route. If you wanted to take those stairs, it's actually closer to the skull. You kind of have to go past the skull to get there, or you have the main staircase that leads down, and you guys could take the main staircase and head down that way, which you were currently closer to just because of the water room.
Yeah, Ernie would advocate for the main stairway only because that's where the plaques have been before, near the stairways.
Yeah, but that sounds like sound reasoning to Kiranos. So he will um, agree with that idea.
One thing I hate about these books is all of the plaques are in the front of this whole fucking dungeon. Gotta jump back like 30 fucking pages to find the plaque and where it's located. All right, so I think you guys were just on walk through water. Yeah, so when you go to the stairs, I think I actually have it revealed right now so you guys can see at those staircases. Bam. So, oh, I did not move my bot over. Are you guys all on this one, or did I just not move any of you over?
Now I see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
would say
double
so.
clicked it. I didn't move anybody over. So again, in classical D&D style, like when a map's drawn, like bigger lines are higher than smaller lines. So those 3 lines in orange are meant to show you that the staircase up is on the south side here. The staircase down is on the north side. These 2 staircases, if you ask me, look almost exactly the same when you're actually like looking at them. But effectively, as you guys come back to the grand staircase and you start to walk down this area and make your way to this next level, you're going to see that this level kind of has like 2 different levels to it as well. Um, I don't think it's a full 25 feet of staircase in each one of these, like the ones above have been. But you're basically looking at you descend probably about like 12 and a half feet to get to this balcony, where you guys can actually see the plaque is on kind of the north side of this hallway to the west. There is a hallway to the south that you will walk past at the base of those stairs, on this kind of like mezzanine level. And then there is another set of staircase that lead down to the base of these grand staircases. You are finally at the base of what would appear to be it, only that there are 4 stone gargoyles that sit atop these large pillars. So they're almost at eye level when you get to the mezzanine. And these 4 gargoyles all look out in a cardinal direction. Um, Heinrich would notice as you head down that the one on the north side stands atop a copper plate. The one on the south side stands atop a golden plate. And the 2 east and west stand on quite similar plates. One is kind of a tarnished silver, and the other is a untarnished silver. I think it would be safe to say that you can recognize the eastern plate is actual silver and the western plate is platinum. But all 4 of these gargoyles stand atop these pillars that are like 10 or so feet tall. They themselves are 4-armed gargoyles, and each of them stands on the pillars as they are. But you see bones and things all around. There's that massive pit that is between the 4 gargoyles, and there is a horrendous kind of like screaming and cacophony of like grinding noises that's coming from that pit. It's almost mechanical in that you can hear kind of like the teeth of massive stone wheels that seem to turn. It would almost kind of feel like the engine of this entire dungeon is kind of to be heard coming up from that central shaft between those 4 gargoyles. And then I think the last thing that I didn't describe is that there is a path out to the east, on that level where the gargoyles are. But other than that, as you guys walk down, is the plaque your first thought? Do you have any thought for the little hall that immediately turns off left? What would you guys like to do?
Seems like the plaque would be our kind of initial focus.
Yeah. Ernie would definitely go for the plaque. She wants to see what the warning says.
Gotcha. So I think if you just shine light down in that direction, you see that for about like 20 or so feet, there's this path to the south of you. Before I think it looks like a cave in. I'm not going to look too much into it. Just going to reveal you a little bit of that, and we'll leave it at I believe there's some stones kind of caved in that direction. Um, and just again, not necessarily reading this from anywhere, but from the art, there's definitely spider webs all around this area. I think just kind of shining your light down that hallway to the west, you guys can make out there's some sort of door that blocks it off inside of like where you lose sight of the light. There's another path that's kind of goes off to the north, but otherwise you guys can make your way to the plaque where you see death to fire, dine or drown, precious air and falling sand. The army sleeps in silence. The mirror holds 12. Find the iron scepter's twin. The maze holds the key.
Uh, Not sure what to make of any of that just yet, but perhaps it'll become clear. If there's another mirror on this level. Perhaps some more eyeballs if the mirror holds 12. We have 10. Perhaps that one up on the previous level was indeed a trap, as you said, Ernie.
Ah, well, I guess we'll see when we explore this place.
To the going to head down this hallway to start.
Well, seems as good a place as any to start.
So, as you guys head down that direction, around when you get closer to the hall that moves off to the east, you will gain sight of a door that is kind of like a almost like polished stone slab that blocks the hall in front of you. You can see two large serpents that seem to kind of like flank the door. And then in common, you can see on the lintel a warning that says, "Warm like flame, cold for the cruel, still for the dead, gruel for the ghoul."
Sorry, repeat that one more time. Warm like flame, cold like the dead.
Warm like flame, cold for the cruel, still for the dead, gruel for the ghoul.
Got it. Okay, thanks. Don't know what to make of this either.
Oh, sure, either of us. And Erna will go to one of those serpents from the wall and like try to inspect it, I guess, like look at them, see if there's anything special about them or if there is decoration or
So as you get close to those bronze serpents, you're actually going to smell like a horrific stench of death that's like just kind of like permeating this area around you. The bronze serpents just like reek of it, basically. Um, Close examination, you can see kind of dried blood around the mouth of each of these statues. Roll a investigation for me. As you kind of like look them over, you kind of like gain a sense like these serpents will like take a sacrifice of blood were you to basically do a bloodletting and cut yourself. You could feed the serpent blood.
now that I'll turn back to Kieran, like bit holding my nose from the smell. Like, yeah, it seems like maybe it wants us to offer blood to the snakes.
All right. Do you prefer if I did it, or?
I mean, there's two snakes, so maybe it has to be from two persons, or we could do it together. You take one, I'll take the other.
All right. Um, yes, Kiranos will move to stand in front of the other statue.
Gotcha. And each of you are going to basically cut yourselves and start to bleed into the mouths of these serpents.
Yeah, Kiranos will probably like maybe like kind of slice his palm and then kind of like try to essentially make a fist and like kind of like squeeze some of the drops into the. I assume it's like kind of like an open mouth kind of thing in the statue.
Yeah, and Ernie will do the same.
If each of you would take 10% of your maximum hit points and remove those. Not like from your maximum, but like if your max hit points is 100, you'll go down to 90 hit points right now. But you guys are sacrificing 10% of your life to satiate these things. As you initially start to bleed into the mouth of the serpent, you can like see the magic of their mouths is like siphoning the blood out of your wounds and starting to suck it into the mouth of this thing. You hear like a horrendous like screeching and moaning and uh like like clawing from behind the stone as blood like flows into the mouth of these serpents, and it's almost like echoing out of the serpents' mouths. And then after the two of you bleed like a certain amount, you're going to basically hear as there's just a loud like grinding, and this wall is lifted in front of you. Can we take a quick break here? I just noticed I have a map loaded that has like everything after it's triggered. Um, and I don't want to reveal stuff that like reveals. I must have like gotten a dynamic map, or I'd rather know that I got a dynamic map. And I just don't want to use this one. It just seems a mistake.
Sure. Yeah. No problem.
Yeah, no problem.
Doesn't have to be more than a minute or so, like a couple of moments, but um, I think we're good for this room. No, yeah, I want to get it before I open this room up for you.
Yep. I'll be back in a few. I'm back.
Right, well, I'm just getting things back to what I had in mind. Yeah, my bad. I noticed it when that stairway to the north that you guys would have already passed to get here. I noticed it with that one. I like went to look at it and was like, whoa, whoa, that art looks way wrong. But like you guys already passed by kind of like a little bit of a hall that leads to a stairway up, and from that stairway you can see like a chest sits at the top of the stair. But from where you guys are here, kind of continuing forward. So I think immediately you guys will see that there is a vaulted chamber in front of you here. Um, it has kind of like part of its floor is like sunken down into the ground about like 10 or so feet. You can probably see like kind of the back of it from where like the actual door just initially opens in front of you here. Um, you can see alcoves on like the north and the south sides of this chamber that have wooden statues, um, kind of what is it, hornet-headed warriors. They all seem to be wearing like grass skirts and like holding like spears. Um, and then there is a throne on the opposite side of this kind of like lowered pit floor. The throne is like made out of like flesh and bone, and you can see that it's kind of like latched together with sinew. Skulls all piled around it, skin kind of stretched across like metal scepter, different things, and there's a metal scepter that kind of rests across like the center of the throne, like where you would be seated. And then inside of like the sunken floor, there's like three humanoid figures that are kind of like shuffling about in that area. And I think it said they're hooded. No, you can see though that their like eyes and mouths are all sewn shut. Um, and they, yeah, I think that about gives you that room. Safe to say that Henry would probably pick up pretty quickly that of the alcoves with those hornet-headed warriors, one of them is empty.
Uh,
Obalaka isn't in anybody anymore, right?
Ernie has Obalaka.
Oh, Henry's got Obalaka. So as you guys enter into this room, let's see. It would be wise to avoid disturbing the host whose throne this is, nor to pick up such a horrific device as its scepter. But I know not if either are harmful.
Yeah, Ernie will relay that to the others. Obalaka said. Uh, she agrees. Like the throne looks terrifying. Maybe not. Maybe it's best not to disturb it.
perhaps we need to find its twin.
Let me get a perception check from Henry. We said you lost your adventuring party here, right? So let me get a perception check from essentially all four of you. All right. So as you guys are walking into this room and starting to gain a sense of like what kind of carnage and things, um, you guys can actually spot different areas where there's like murals painted on the walls of this kind of like lowered level where these creatures with their eyes sewn shut are like meandering around. And you can see that there's all sorts of pigments and they've got like brushes and they're also kind of somewhat covered in paint themselves over time. But Einri, you pick up one scene that one of these creatures is painting where the cleric who was moving with your group had started to put their head through that maw with the lights inside of the skull, and you can see this horrifically graphic scene where it starts to chew down on the cleric's head, and like it's painted in way too much detail where the cleric's skull snapped and parts of its brain matter were like squeezed through the teeth like gelatin. And Kyrinos, you have the a similar scene where one of the members of your group who was traveling through one of the upper levels was what's one of the other traps? Um, But like just one of like the poison trap at the start, like you can see this scene where like their eyes are pierced through by the poison darts, as they like walk into the initial part of this dungeon, and it was like the first of your friends who have died, and you can see like in way too much detail one of these creatures is like starting to paint over this part of the mural, but you make out like the features of your friend's face and like how detailed these darts like piercing through their eyes, and not necessarily killing them at that point, but it was the horrific point where they were blinded as they lost both of their eyes when you all first entered into the dungeon. And Zeros, it does not take you long to spot a friend of yours climbing into a chest, and the moment that you see on Jarek's face as his body is consumed, and the last thing to go before he's turned to utter dust is just the shriek of pain across his face. And you see one of these creatures just kind of painting that at this present moment and almost like finishing up the last few details on Jarek's face.
Well, that's disturbing.
Yeah, I mean, Ernie won't say anything, but if you look at her, you see like she has her hands over her mouth and she just looks horrified.
Yeah, and imagine Zeros has been like he's probably like imagined before like what kind of like Jarek's last moments might have been like, but kind of seeing it actually visual, it's like even worse than he was thinking. So yeah, he's definitely taken it back as well.
My bad. As is classic to me making little mistakes here. There should be a statue in that top left alcove. It is one of those things where Henry walking near it, you're going to spot that there's something wrong up there. So I'm leaving the statue out. So it's a little bit more clear, but I don't know. This map's kind of shit. I wish I didn't use it.
Assuming Ernie kind of points that out that there's something going on, with that alcove. Just maybe we try to make our way over there. Sticking to the upper level here.
So when you do kind of pass along that upper route and kind of make your way over there, there'll be like a weird moment where all of the sudden one of these creatures like that's painting kind of just below those stairs like stares up at you, and again their mouths are sewn shut, their eyes are sewn shut, and the moment you kind of like pass by, it just kind of turns from like um we'll say that's the one painting Jarek, and it kind of like turns and just looks directly towards your group. But as soon as like Quinn and Zeros get closer, it kind of like locks onto the two of them, almost ignoring Henry and Kyrinos for that moment. And you see like an odd sort of fixation with those who know the person that it's painting. But otherwise, at present, as you guys do continue on, it doesn't seem to react any other than just staring at Zeros and at Quinn. But as you guys like head over into that area and you approach that alcove in particular, you'll very quickly see that there's a door behind that figure, and it's like just cracked open, just like 2 inches or so, about the thickness of the door. But there's the slightest bit of like air that's behind it, so you know the door leads somewhere. You can't quite make out where, but effectively maybe I should say that the door's cracked the opposite way, um, because there is a statue in the middle of it. I feel like that kind of works. Say the door is cracked away from you, and you can kind of see like the slightest bit of open air, where you could probably push that door further open.
Kiranos will turn back to Ernie. Uh, shall we? And he'll kind of gesture towards the door.
Uh, all right.
When
Yes. Oh, go ahead.
when you kind of like shimmy beside this like hornet headed figure with like the dress skirt, uh, the grass skirt and like the spear, just kind of shimmying next to him to like squeeze into the alcove. You can kind of get an arm behind it, and the door opens seamlessly behind. It's not too much to say that's what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. He'll, probably keep an eye on the statue as he's kind of shimming by it. But yeah, that's what he'd be doing.
Yeah, statue doesn't seem to react at all from that kind of perspective. Like really, really close to this little thing, doesn't seem to be acting up anything. As you kind of push it open, you still have the ram's head kind of lit up.
Yes. Yep.
So you will very quickly see that, like many places in this dungeon, there's like a 15-20 foot high ceiling in this place. Some of the corridors are like 8 or so feet. So as you kind of like push into this, there's a little corridor about 5 or 10 feet more before you see it kind of opens up into a larger space. You'll very quickly see kind of a sarcophagus in the center of this area, but the murals all around you will very quickly take you to a different place entirely. No longer are you looking at these horrific scenes inside of this dungeon. You are quickly taken back to the actual jungles of Chult, and you see fantastic images of. There's no reason to say that your characters have not experienced Omu. So we'll say, like, actual seeing, like, some of the people of Omu, some of the actual, like, buildings and like more renowned places that you would have stopped in the actual like eventual visit, to collect everything to enter into the tomb of the nine gods. And you recognize some of these buildings, but you will very quickly see that this whole like expanse is painted up in murals to kind of celebrate Omu. And the center sarcophagus seems to be the adornment of a queen who sits uh, laid in rest in an otherwise horrific place. But this room seems to be kind of like a moment of beauty or like a moment of kind of respite from all of the horrific things that you would experience outside of this small corridor. Again, to kind of like put you guys in a place where like you're not suffering for a loss of knowledge because like you have different like main characters at this point. I don't think there's any reason for these guys not to know what you would have learned with Jarek and Taryn. Do you guys remember the Queen of Omu?
Yeah, I'll try to. I know I've written it down somewhere, or maybe that's.
Uh,
You look around, won't take you long
Napaka.
to. Indeed, yep. It won't take you long to spot that her name is actually carved in common into the sarcophagus, and you can recognize that this is indeed marked as Napaka. It seems to, by all rights, be the Queen of the Omawans. Any thoughts as you like kind of enter into this area? You've got the sarcophagus, this like beautiful scene as if you're like back out in the jungle, like clear skies overhead, like painted into the murals. It really does look like you're almost like standing in like a 360 view of Omu.
I think Kiranos will kind of give a little kind of like nod of not reverence exactly, but almost like respect. Um, his kind of initial thought is almost this seems like unnaturally uh, peaceful within this area, but which is unsettling to some extent, but welcome in another respect.
I think that central thing in her hand is supposed to be a bejeweled cockroach that rests atop the sarcophagus. And then the sun is actually a golden orb that hangs from chains in this room.
Well, Ernie, you're the archaeologist. What do you make of this place?
And it's seems like someone's resting place that seems hidden away and everything, but uh, she'll take a closer look at the sarcophagus itself and the golden cockroach.
Gotcha. Are you think you're like investigating it? What are you thinking? Like just looking around? Perception if you're just looking, investigation if you're touching.
He's gonna be touching, so that investigation.
So you can see signs that the sarcophagus could be opened. It actually has some like lead that's poured into the stone, and you can see that they are almost serving as like almost like staples to hold the sarcophagus top on to the base. But they're like poured from the side kind of thing. And they just almost look like they would fit as like points on her body. So, say like a little like lead bracer around her ankle and then like a little lead bracer around like her elbow. And they're kind of incorporated into the actual like finery of the sarcophagus itself. But otherwise, you see signs that the sarcophagus could be opened. Um, and then, as far as the actual, I think you can see that the cockroach is like a jewelry box. It's a part of the actual sarcophagus, but beyond that, it seems to almost have its own kind of like lid that is capable of being opened as well. I would say while you're actually like moving your hands over this and starting to actually like feel and gain a sense for some of these things, you'll actually notice that like this sun that kind of like hangs overhead, it's grown like a little bit warmer, and you can kind of see like it actually has a facial expression, and it's kind of almost furling its eyebrows. And you can kind of see like the sun isn't quite angry, but it doesn't look happy.
Yeah, she'll point that out. The sun seems to be not angry per se, but has a face. That seems kind of odd.
As you like go to say that to them and you find yourself like withdrawing away from the sarcophagus with an eye on the sun, you actually start to notice as the room cools down a little bit and the sun begins to smile.
Well, that seems a bit foreboding. Uh, doesn't seem like the sun wants us to touch the sarcophagus. Ah,
Do you think it can it speak? Kyrnos might actually like say like we like he'll almost like turn towards the sun and we did not mean to disturb the great Queen Napaka's rest. We find ourselves in rather dire straits in this place. Curious whether to see whether it responds in any way or its expression changes as he says that.
Looking to the sun, kind of speaking to it, you don't seem to see any change in its disposition.
And are there any signs of um, like any offerings or like anything left around the sarcophagus? Any
Other than the murals, this room is actually pretty starkly bare. There's the sarcophagus, and Henry could certainly share that it would appear the cockroach is kind of almost like a sarcophagus in kind, where you guys could kind of assume it might have treasure inside of it. The sun is made of gold, but otherwise, this place doesn't have. There's no coins. There's no like candles in this place. It's pretty bare stone. Just like again, like it's painted into these murals that are very much like a reminder of like Omu at like its height kind of thing. Or like Omu unmolested.
Yeah, and Henry is gonna be a bit curious, like just trying to remember. Does a cockroach has any significance to the Umaran people that she knows of? It's kind of weird that it's a cockroach form. It's not the most pleasant creature.
I mean, to be honest with you, the hornet thing and the cockroaches seem to be kind of out of left field, but I feel like maybe we just never got into that story in chapter two, and I don't remember offhand, but it seems to be presented as like this is very meta knowledge. Queen Napaka was given like this is one of the few kind of signs of like a Sarak's actual humanity is that she is entombed peacefully. But again, that's very meta knowledge, but I don't gather that the cockroach is meant to be off. I think that is meant to be her thing. I don't know. I don't remember insects at all being included as like signs uh for O'Mallons before this.
were there like insectoid peoples that used to inhabit parts of Chult, or am I thinking of something else?
It,
You guys never really what were you thinking, Chris?
I was thinking about what we saw from those. I'm trying to remember that plateau uh, where we saw like there was the crab people, right, and other like beast-like people together with humans.
Yeah, so
But
the crab people were the ones that I was gonna say would seem closest to insectoids. Um I can't remember
Okay,
the actual name of that group, but they were like Cowans or something like that.
okay, that's probably what I'm thinking of. Yeah, like they essentially they vanished for yeah. I think the only other time like the
They're the
insects.
Aldani.
Okay, okay, like the Eldani Basin. Okay.
Yeah, it
Um,
was actually one of the things where like Larry had actually seen Aldani moving and he did not bite to actually go like investigate. And I think that's the closest you all came to actually meeting up with Aldani. But yeah, I feel like in that plateau, what was it, Mumbala, there was tiger people, the two different kinds of lizard folk. I want to say like the ones that like were actually like flying type, and then like kind of like ground based, and then like the tiger people, and then I think it was humanoids. So I feel like the Aldani are the closest to the insectoids up until this point. And that's part of why, to me, this feels like left field. But I don't think this is meant to be a trick because, again, very meta knowledge. This is actually like a sign of Asrak. Kind of too much information is too much information, but this is like a sign of his humanity in letting her be entombed like this.
Yeah, so I think so. Kiranos might, and this probably would have been something he would have gotten third hand from like Zeros, who might have been told by Jarek at some point while they're traveling, but basically just like just in case maybe the spirit of Napak is still around, he would just kind of maybe mention that her grandchildren still live, so the line survives, and but otherwise he would suggest to Ernie that perhaps we kind of leave the queen to rest in peace. Um,
So do you all back out of the room? Do you not open the sarcophagus and you just kind of head out?
I guess the one reason to open it would be Jarek would have mentioned to so they would probably know from again probably from Zeros, I guess, that we are the skull chalice of Chagakor, something like that. That might be something that would have been laid to rest with the queen, possibly. So Kiranos might approach the sarcophagus kind of like keeping a bit of a wary eye on the sun as he gets close again.
So again, Heinrich kind of like points out, or would have been able to point out, that those lead like castings almost bind the actual like lid of the sarcophagus to the base of the sarcophagus.
Okay, it's almost like it's been kind of like almost like welded shut in a way.
Yeah, like you could remove the lead, but that if you want to open the sarcophagus, Heinrich would basically point out you've got to remove that lead first. But if you would like to, it's not terribly difficult to do. Just let me know if you have that interest. It says something to the effect of, the lid is sealed with strips of melted lead that can be easily pried away. So if you make the effort, I don't think it costs you anything. It's just one of the things.
Yeah, well, he's going to start to move to do that, but look towards Ernie. Again, Ernie being the kind of the archaeologist of the group.
I think for once here, curiosity would win out over her newfound caution, because this would be exactly what she's looking for, like a find of ancient Domain, and a queen at that. That is too much. So yeah, she's in on actually opening this.
So again, as you guys start to pry off those little lead bars, you will notice that the sun's smile does like turn once again into kind of this like furrowed look. The room is going to get hotter, not necessarily like uncomfortably hot right away, but you do notice like messing with the sarcophagus, there is a certain change in the sun above you. But you can pry off those little lead kind of like bars, and I don't think there's any really difficulty. What is your +2 athletics with Kubazan and you with Kiranos?
Athletics is a +8.
+8. Yeah, so let me get an athletics as you like go to lift the lid once those are all removed. Yeah, so you can lift the lid up and you don't necessarily just like scatter it aside. It does still have like, you know, plenty of like kind of the beauty in that like scarab that is. I feel like that's a better way to say cockroach than cockroaches say scarab. But that thing's still on top, and it still kind of is something you guys are at least treating somewhat respectably at this point. There's no reason to say you're like scattering the sarcophagus lid, but as you open it, you can see that there is indeed the queen laid in rest inside of this. She rests in relatively, yeah, I think you can see she is magically preserved. Like this is an older woman in like her 60s or 70s kind of thing, but otherwise like her flesh is pretty much as if she were still alive. Um she's in a black gown, and I think the gown is probably more tattered than her flesh would show signs of death. She wears a golden hornet mask. Again, I feel like we must have skipped something that was an optional, like go to, but the hornet mask kind of represents the hornet headed people who sit in those alcoves in the room you just came from. Um, Her left hand, she has an iron scepter, and it has an adamantine head, so you would see like almost like a platinum silver head on it. Yeah, I think that's kind of what you're gonna see as you kind of open up. Basically, she holds uh this iron scepter in her left hand. Her body is otherwise seems pure from death. She has a black gown on that's kind of tattered from time, and has this painted golden mask of a hornet that she wears over her head.
So Kyrinos wants to take a look at her right hand and try to determine does it look like maybe there was something held in her right hand as well previously? He's thinking of the warning about finding the Iron Scepter's twin.
I don't think there is any reason that her right hand would be doing anything than maybe like kind of laid across her stomach, maybe.
Okay. But I think Kyrnos is going to maybe in that case reach for the Iron Scepter.
You're gonna reach for it and take it.
I guess like he try to carefully kind of essentially pry it out without disturbing the body as much as he can. But yes.
So you kind of like try to get it away from her fingers, and it kind of gives way after a moment. And the moment you kind of pull it from her fingertips, you're going to see as her mouth opens and a cloud of black smoke starts to billow into this room. And that's where we're going to end the session.
I knew that was a bad idea.
To be honest, that wasn't the trap I was expecting. I was expecting something from the sun.
I'm not sure that the sun is not going to react at this exact same time, too. But at very least, that is the first thing that you're going to notice as he's actively looking at this. But yeah, the sun is definitely a part of this situation that I'm pretty sure those two things are happening right now.
Yeah, yeah. Probably both. Yeah. This could be really bad.
I will say,